Plano Culture, the Plano Culture and Inclusion Alliance Employee Resource Group. I'm Pamela Ziegler-Petty, Chair of the 2022 Plano Culture and Inclusion Alliance and member of the Plano Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. I'm so looking forward to moderating this morning's conversation and hearing from our seasoned panelists. But before we move to our panel, please hear a few words from today's presenting sponsor, Toyota Motor North America Incorporated.
Thanks, Pam. Pamela, that is a very tough thing to say for some reason. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sandra Karras, and I work as a consultant in our Diversity and Inclusion division at Toyota. And I'd also like to welcome you all to this incredibly important conversation today about employee resource groups, or ERGs. You know, here at Toyota, we are truly committed to make the workplace and marketplace and society better by driving a diversity mindset and inclusive behaviors into every aspect of our business. We do this by actively cultivating a culture of team member experience that embraces, empowers, and respects all people, helping to drive innovation and relevancy through continuous improvement and respect for people, which are our two Toyota pillar ways. And to help to support this, we're proud to say that we currently have 13 affinity groups, or ERGs, over 20 sites, and over 100 chapters across North America, and we're super proud of that. And this is why we're so excited to bring you this conversation today. ERGs are truly the building block to help our team members feel connected, valued, respected, and heard. So I truly hope you enjoy the conversation today and are inspired to take action within your organization, or if you've already started the journey, that you continue to grow your D&I through your ERGs. So thanks for being here today, and Pamela, back to you.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and Toyota Motor North America for your continued support of the Plano Chamber. I would like to also thank Frito-Lay and Southern Methodist University for their annual sponsorship of the Plano Culture and Inclusion Alliance. With the support of our three sponsors and the work of our wonderful advisory council, these types of events and conversations are possible. Now, I would like to invite our three panelists to join me on the screen. All right. First up, Claudia De Leon Tapia, Toyota North America. Claudia is Manager, Regional Engagement, Diversity, and Inclusion. She's responsible for shaping strategies to advance diversity and inclusion across Toyota's field organization to achieve D&I goals. Claudia has also been responsible for guiding Toyota's employee resource group that spans over 100 chapters across North America. She is recognized for practicing inclusive leadership and enabling employees at all levels to bring their whole selves to work. Taryn Limpak, PepsiCo North America. Taryn currently serves as the Transformation Senior Director. In this role, she leads both the design and process for omni-channel service to enable the foods business for future growth. Taryn has been engaged with Equal, PepsiCo's LGBTQ+ ERG, since 2008 and currently leads the North America leadership team focused on allyship, benefits, and inclusivity of the entire LGBTQ+ community. April Carr, PepsiCo Foods North America. April is the Transformation and Strategy Senior Director of Sales Technologies Innovation Platforms in the Growth Office. She was responsible for integrating new technology solutions, including PepsiCo's co-innovation work with Microsoft, Salesforce CRM, and Sam's Club. April is a powerhouse with over 22 years of PepsiCo leadership experience in multiple roles. She exemplifies change and currently serves as the national chair of the PepsiCo Women of Color, ERG. So, participants, we have a fantastic, seasoned panel. I'm so excited to get started today. With that being said, let's get it going. So here we are. Question number 1. In your experience and opinion, why is it important for companies to form an employee resource group, or sometimes known as business partnering groups? Claudia, let's begin with you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. A pleasure being here and honored to be with the panelists and everyone on this call. My D&I commitment is to be the voice and the ally of the underrepresented. So thank you, Pamela, for your question. So there's so many different reasons as to why ERGs are important to a company. Just a low-hanging fruit, which I think it's, what's in it for me when it comes to our team members, is in regards to team member leadership and development. When it comes to ERGs, a lot of the activities that are put together, it could be a summit, it could be a development opportunity, it can be something like this, panelists in regards to a certain topic that's important to the affinity group. So from that, our team members are learning, developing in regards to their project management, in regards to their presentation skills. The network is huge in regards to all the different peoples and the different levels that they're able to participate and engage with. And what's the beauty of this is that whatever they're learning through the ERGs, they're also taking into their day-to-day jobs and enhancing those positions that are in, supporting those groups that they're working under. So it's a win-win is the way I see it. And even to take it even to a deeper level, which I think it's the most important part to this, is that they are key. Our ERG, our team members are key, that the ones that participate in our BPGs in regards to our D&I journey. It's an information sharing from what's important to our team members. And like Sandra stated, a respect for people is really in the backbone of who we are. It's one of our pillars of strength. So having that information sharing is important as to what's important to our team members, but as well, how does that line up to our D&I strategy as a company? And another thing, the last point that I would make here would be in regards to ERGs is that it provides a sense of belonging. And I think that has always been important, but it has become even more relevant with the pandemic. And now that we're starting to get to the new normal, whatever that might be, whether it's total remote work, whether it's hybrid, that sense of belonging is so important in ensuring that we continue to build the culture of who we represent as a company, and that team members make that that culture, and ensuring that they can come to a certain group that they have a passion for and feel that they are a part of and contribute in a positive way and take that to their day-to-day job is what makes it, I think, a magical response as to how we can move our D&I journey forward as a company.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that, and especially for the portion of about including the belonging piece to that. April, we've just heard from Toyota, but, why does PepsiCo believe it's necessary to form ERGs?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's truly an integral part of the fabric of who we are, and of any future forward organization that respects the power that diverse associates bring to the table. Also as strategic partners, to Claudia's point, being able to weigh in not only on the DE&I front, but also activations that drive business results in other ways is extremely powerful and key. ERGs provide a purposeful place in space in which their unique differences, their backgrounds, their experiences, and their points of view are not only heard, but valued. And it also gives an elevated presence to psychological safety. and making sure that when they show up, that they can truly show up authentically as they are, so that they can live, they can flourish, and they can contribute to not only the cohort, but the broader organizational goals.
You know, you said a mouthful there. Taryn, I'm just thinking, you know, she said the psychological, you know, the comfort, the space there. You know, do you have anything to add there in terms of your perspective?
Absolutely. I think, all of us are here, right, either representing our business and organization. The reality is we're in the people business, right? That's why we're here today, is because that's what's most important. And when I think about it, I think oftentimes, when I tell someone, hey, I'm part of an ERG, they think, okay, well, that's because you fall within that ERG, right? But I'll tell you, I didn't join our equal ERG at first because I was part of the community. I was an ally. And I think when we think about what April's talking about, is people having a sense of belonging and feeling safe. That's what was important to me, is that my people, no matter, hey, what color, how they showed up to work, as long as they were here to be, do their job, I wanted them to feel safe. I wanted them to know I had their back each and every day. And I think for me, to April's point, I have felt that, but I also know that PepsiCo truly lives it and breathes it and brings it to our people. And it's here at headquarters, right? But it's also in the field, which is even more important, where our people might live in states where they don't feel safe, but they can come to work and know that as an organization, we have their back and we will take care of them. And I think as we continue in the world that we're living in, we have to continue to remind our team members that they are not just an employee, that they are family, and that we are here to hold them and to make sure that they feel good when they walk in these doors or when they walk into a customer's door, that we have their back, and that no matter what part of them they bring to work, we're here. And I think that's what makes all of us better, is because we're in the people business. And that's a good reminder on a daily basis that we do more than just sell something.
That is awesome. And I'm just for those who are on participating with us today, do each of your companies have a certain number of times that you meet, either monthly or bi-monthly? Let's start with Toyota with your ERGs.
Yes, we do have a cadence. We also have a requirement in regards to an annual plan that each of the ERGs is required to put together. So that really helps line out as to what they want to do throughout the year. But at the same time, we do have monthly meetings with them from a BPG leaders meeting to ensure, again, the communication sharing is so important as to what's important to them. But as far as, what are those items that are important as a group that we want to be delivering to them? Again, it's that two-way communication, but we do have a monthly cadence of reporting out. And then we also have, in regards to all the groups coming together as a summit, to make sure that, again, it's information sharing, it's development of team members, anything that we might need to be working as a team on those pressing items that BPGs are seeing as challenges to continue to move forward.
Great, excellent. With one of you with PepsiCo, like to share when you meet or how often?
Yeah, I think both April and I lead our national team. So, right, we're meeting with both the Frito-Lay PepsiCo Foods and Pepsi partners each month. We know that those teams are also meeting each month. We then come together as a holistic DEI ERG group to come together to make sure that we're working on intersectionality. So how are April and I representing women of color and equal for each of our Heritage Month, right? Because people don't just fit into a box. They probably check multiple boxes. So how do I make sure that our women of color that might be a lesbian, how do we make them feel safe? And how do we show what's represented for them? So that's really important to us. Much like Claudia said, we develop AOPs, but what I'll tell you is each of our ERGs, the folks that are engaged in them, develop these AOPs and then go above and beyond. And what's great is we bring that back to our executive sponsors to say, hey, here's what we've done. Here's what we did last year, but how do we go amplify? I think we're in a space too, where we know people are coming back into an office and we're like, let's make it fun. Let's get back out there and show them that ERGs are a great way to be involved and that have been holding each other's hand through the last 2 years.
Awesome. This is just simply great information. So, so we've just talked about, why you believe it's, necessary to have one. So, Taryn, can you give me insight on how to form an ERG? Let's say we've got someone, who's participating today, and maybe they're not a large corporation, or maybe they're fledgling. They could even be a small business. Where do you start? So, let's just talk a little bit about, that, just kind of the nuts and bolts of to really get this started.
Think it takes a little bit of passion. So you got to find someone that's going to help you lead it, because it's not a one-man show, right? One woman show, but it's how do we stand up a group that can support our people, right? So you can be an ally. I think that's important. You now have 3 new friends. So Claudia, April, and Taryn, that you can find us on LinkedIn, and we will help you stand up an ERG. I think that's what's important. And I know that's how I've been successful. When we first started Equal, when I was in the field in California, we didn't know how to do it. We didn't know how to replicate. So we leveraged at the time our Mosaic and WIN, so our women networks and our African-American networks, and said, how are you guys successful and what's working, and where have you gotten good feedback, or what do we need to do differently? I think that's most important. Even today, as I think about our ERG being successful across North America, something that I do is when I'm on calls like this, or when I attend conferences for Without an Equal, I make friends and we share ideas. So once a month now, I have a connect with a group at Kellogg's, right? So I don't talk to them about what kind of cereal they're selling, but we talk about what's happening for our own people. And we share ideas and we say, oh, I can replicate that. And one, it makes it better for our employees, and then it helps us do something different. So that's how I think you get started, is don't be afraid to ask for help, because all of us would absolutely love to help you get started, whether it's for 10 folks or 200 folks or 3,000.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, Claudia, what are your thoughts?
I would definitely agree with Taryn. I mean, it really has to be grassroots efforts for it to be sustainable. With over 100 chapters, and team members are volunteering their time, right? So that's where Taryn's talking about the passion. There has to be that passion, because they're working long hours as it is, very long hours. And then especially when we're talking about our field production team members, a lot of overtime. So how do we ensure that they stay connected? It's that passion that drives them. And then for us as leaders, ensuring that we're clearing some of those challenges that might be coming across the way, to ensure that they're able to act upon, an activity that they want to roll out and what have you, that it's going to provide that education, that awareness that's important to that affinity group. But definitely grassroots efforts is something that we always talk about, because we've seen others that if it's led by a leader that wants to start it up and there's not that grassroots efforts, more often than not, it cannot be sustained. So that's very important to us.
And so April, I'll ask you this. Is there a certain number of people that you feel that you need when you are trying to form this? I mean, do you need to have 5, 10, can you start with 4? What's the golden number? Because, if you have a small business, let's just say, and, in your mind, you want to start this, inclusive piece, you've got the heart, you've got the spirit. You don't exactly know where to go, but everybody can start, right? Some type of program to build, a coalition of, togetherness. So, what advice do you have there? Because I know you're big corporations, but I'm sure you understand how to get to just that step.
Absolutely. No magic number. There is no magic number. Most ERGs are formed out of an opportunity, right? Out of a need. And so as long as there's a need and there's a desire to form, then you have the capacity needed to go do that. I think leaning into extended networks, understanding best practices in terms of operationalizing the ERG is really important. The backbone in terms of understanding how to run it as a business is also key. But yeah, it just takes a desire, because I'll tell you, just from our women of color perspective, you know, again, I've been with the organization for over 20 years, and you know, in some areas, in some locations, the numbers are few, right?
Mhm.
But any and all are welcome to join. And it's all about making those connection points. And I think, to Terrence's point, that's the beauty of us being in the national role that we're in, is that we get to be a bridge and a connector across, you know, beverages, foods, corporate divisions, in ways that those employees and associates may not have ever had that latitude to reach out and or get to know other women of color in other areas.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. As a leader of an ERG, what benefits have you personally experienced in the role? Taryn, I think it would be great to hear from you.
I get to hang out with you guys today as a start, right? So April and I were asked, and I think, you know, if I think about the last, I was going to say several years, it's been more than that now. To April's point, I feel like time is flying, but you know, I think that network that April talks about, there are so many amazing people that if I was not involved in ERG, I would have never have crossed paths with. One, just being in the foods business, you know, I think get very caught up in our day job, and this sometimes becomes my extracurricular. I try to think about it like it's my nighttime and my weekend job, but again, I'm passionate about it. But really, it's helped open my eyes to the business. It's made me a better leader in my day job, because I have empathy for our people and I have better understanding of what's going on around me. I also have a network like April. Conveniently, we're on the same team now, but at the end of the day, when we weren't, I could call her and ask her a question, right? I think it's also, as an ERG leader, to see the team that I work with on a daily basis, how far they've come in their career and how far they're coming as leaders. That to me is what it's about. It's about giving back and helping our people, one, see their true potential. And maybe, you know, sometimes that's in the ERG work they do. Or I have a gal today that leads our social media, and she's now training my team in different areas of process. Like, had we not met, we would not have been able to establish that network and you know, spread our wings. I think what's really important when we think about what I get out of it, I keep coming back, because every year it's, yes, I get to be the lead on the team, but I have the best people to work with. Like, they are all really good at something. And I think April hit it. It's a business. So I've got a secretary, I have, you know, a social media manager. There are each different groups that are being managed by, I have a team that puts on our Heritage Month, a team that puts on a swag shop so people can get clothing. Like, we run a business and each of us are learning from each other. So if I have a question in my day job, they're the first folks that I look at. So I'm getting a heck of a lot more out of it than anyone else, I'll tell you.
And so so it sounds like the folks that are also in the ERG are also learning additional business skills.
Yes, what we try to do, and what I've seen over the past, and I think a good example of it is putting them in something that maybe they weren't good at, or that they don't get to get critical experience in their day job. Because it's easy, right, for us to go say, yeah, go do that because that's what you do today. But if we can give folks, hey, you're not a financial person in your day job, why don't you go do that for an ERG and learn along the way? It's better for them and they get something out of it. And I know that's been a goal for us across our ERGs over my time within the organization.
Awesome. Thank you. Claudia, how have you benefited as a leader?
Yeah, it's very similar to what Taryn is saying. We also see that in regards to the development of our team members. I've been very fortunate to be able to see that growth. Prior to this role, I was in an HR capacity, and I could totally see in regards to team members in the divisions that I supported, how their ERG experience was able to enhance the day job that they were doing. And then getting to see those promotional opportunities was kind of like the icing on the cake, just seeing that. Now, does it equate to a promotion? Absolutely not, but it really creates that, you know, the team member being able to develop. It's a sense of understanding, okay, how can the ERG support me? But then at the same time, how can I connect it back to paying it forward, which I think for me is so crucial. trying to clear the way for others, right? If I had a tough time to get to where I'm at, how can I make it easier for others? And it's not that there's a perfect formula and whatever worked for one individual worked for another, but it's just understanding that we're not in this journey alone. That ERG, really that sense of community is so important just to ensure that we keep on going together as a team. And if I have a certain situation or a challenge, I know based on my network through the ERG participation, who would be that person, that go-to person that can help me, give me a different insight. And what April talked about the business, I totally love it because that's really how we see ERGs as well when it comes to development. What are those areas that maybe you don't have exposure to that we're trying to make that, connect that you don't usually have that experience through your regular job. And then with that, what we're trying to ensure as well as a company that we're trying to bring our leaders along in regards to how do we connect the dots between the ERG experience to what they do in their day-to-day job for that to be recognized. We're still in the early stages, but we do see that as an opportunity. And we're hoping to continue that journey because our leaders are all engaged and they see the value in ERGs, but how do we continue to make those connections?
Excellent. So far, I think you have a chance to develop your business skills, and then we've just heard now employee development ability, I guess, scale and growth there as an individual. So that is just absolutely fantastic. Okay, so let's see, as we move along here, what are the benefits to actively participating and engaging in an ERG? And this is for folks who are listening within your respective companies. Now, this is just open to any of you. So whoever would like to answer.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Great.
So the range is large, right? So we talked about it. So everything from a heightened sense of belonging to extended networks to expanded leadership opportunities to giving back inside and outside of the organization. We have the privilege to be able to partner a lot with our community as well. So the ladies talked about paying it forward. That's what it's about. It's about, being a part of an organization that's going to first pour into you and elevate your impact. So, and provide extended visibility. So, one of the things that I found to be true is that our women are grinders. I mean, we are killing it. We are working so hard. And oftentimes we just don't toot our own horns, right? And so our ERGs are like, yeah, we'll step in the gap. We'll toot your horn for you, right? So I think it's one of the big kind of fringe benefits that we don't talk about a lot. But the goal is to be able to double down on the value and to also be able to allow our associates the ability to kind of co-create in the space. So co-create dynamic programming at the national level. To Taryn's point, we get the joy of working at different macro and micro levels within the organization and figuring out how do we expand power and scale, right? So there's programming that we can go and unlock, but we also give them the autonomy to localize programming so that it meets those individual needs that may be more regional or, more functional in nature. So there is a heightened level of ownership that comes with being a part of an ERG. And it's deeply rooted in us having their back in more ways than one, to be able to showcase their value, their impacts, and also be that strategic partner with senior leaders. So they get access to senior leaders that they may not have had access to before, to expand their allyship and to also teach them. So there's reciprocal value in being a part of it, but also being able to teach our senior leaders.
And I think that's where we're going. I think it's probably really important for folks that are potentially listening, senior leadership, when you're in a company and you're starting to engage and you want to know, how do you get to that, that leader, especially if your company is large. So through an ERG, you have an opportunity to have this exposure. I think that's what we just heard. And so this is another way to increase your brand. That's, what I like to call it, right? As you are working through the corporation. Okay, that is awesome. Taryn, would you like to expand on that at any more?
No, I think the one thing that you said that oftentimes I think, especially for our team members, that they don't hear is the actively participating, right? Because we can all go sign up to be part of ERGs and say I'm part of that group. But the one thing that I know myself, I'll tell you, April can challenge with the best of them as well, right? Like, I know something that we do is, what are you actually doing? Because I can go put my name on a list.
Mhm.
But how do we continue to get our employees and challenge them? Like, you need to be an active participant. That doesn't mean just jumping on the 1 hour call for Women's History Month and listening and never doing anything with it. I think it's, what are you bringing back to your teams? But also, if you don't like what we're doing, like I always tell my team, if you don't like what we're doing, then time to step up. I have some girlfriends that are like, I kind of disengaged because I didn't like what was happening. Well, what have you done different then? Right? Like, that's where we have to go and challenge each other to say, hey, here's what we're doing. And maybe it's with 3 of us, because that's how many volunteers we have this week. But if you want something different, be the change you want to see. And I think April said that, but we are living in a world where it's easy to do. It's easy to pick up the phone and go make a difference. And so I think that for me has been where I go and challenge folks. And I took over the Equal team last year, and we had 20 folks on our leadership team. And I'll tell you, I'm all in for 20 folks that want to be on a leadership team and help them get visibility. But I need all 20 of you to show up then. So guess what? We're now down to 12. And that was a hard decision. But I said, if you're not going to be here, I think it's come, show up, and give me what you've got. Don't just put your name on the paper. And so I think that's where we have to continue to remind ourselves, right? Like, walk the talk. Don't just talk the talk. It's where it's really, really important. I think oftentimes we stand up in the RG, and that's what we have to stay true to. That's how it remains. And I think April and Claudia both said it's grassroots, it's the bottom, and we need to keep it going, but you've got to have folks that are going to jump in even when it's not as much fun.
I love this. One of the comments, April and Taryn are speaking unfiltered truth. Yes. And I think that this is part of, what this is all about today. So as I say, tell it like it is. So because we need to grow, and we're here to assist with that. So thank you so much for your honesty. So here is something that I think is just beneficial for those when they're trying to figure out, how things really, really work. So first of all, how do you leverage executive leadership, okay, to increase your exposure and stay engaged, when you're in an ERG? And then, we'll go a little deeper than that, after you kind of share your thoughts there. So Claudia, why don't you start?
Yes, absolutely. So we feel our executive sponsors are key for the success of an ERG. We talked about the business. Our executives definitely provide that guidance in regards to what those challenging points are. There's passion, but that passion drives in regards to, at times, there's some sensitive topics that an affinity group will have to discuss. So how the executive sponsors are able to provide some of that direction. Again, I talked about the challenges of the executive sponsor, the D&I team, trying to remove those barriers for the ERG. So that partnership is crucial. And I think it's a top down when it comes to that in regards to team members seeing that the executives support ERGs and they see the value that they feel heard is so important. And from that, it just continues to blossom from there. But it's so important to have that leadership guidance, that support, to ensure that they're able to clear that pathway for them to continue to grow and develop and do the great things that our ERG support, again, our D&I journey. It's a win-win because they're winning through this process of ensuring that they're educating, creating awareness, that they're exposing themselves in regards to career and what have you. But then at the same time, they're putting that passion into action items that are supporting that through our D&I journey. And then through that, for the company, is a win in regards to it's moving, advancing the business from a D&I lens, which is what we all want. And it's almost creating more individuals that are to Terrence's point, if you're not part of the community allies, how do we support and leverage that?
Okay. So, okay. So April, who makes up this executive leadership group? Who are these people?
Great question. So, what I will say is you have your executive leadership and then you have your executive sponsors, right? The sponsors are the ones that represent the ERG in terms of being allies, in terms of tapping into and influencing their spheres of control.
Okay.
On behalf of the ERG. But a couple of things I'll challenge this group with is when we think about executive leadership, ERGs have a responsibility, and leaders, ERG leaders, to show up as our executive sponsors or executive leadership equals. Okay. And what I mean by that is step into your power, right? Speak the language, talk to them about what the return on investment will be by them doubling down on the ERG and investing in the ERG and the purpose and the intent behind the ERG. And then leverage them as partners ongoing. Tell them you want to step up in the space from a strategic partnership perspective. Help build a roadmap to success for the organization that is inclusive of these different diverse perspectives. Talk to them about the dual accountability of it and the dual commitment. So Terren talked about it, it's about hearts and hands. It's about doing the work, the hard work. And then we can also surface with our executive leaders, executive sponsors, from an advisory perspective. Okay. To help educate those leaders on what a day in the life of actually entails and how we can continue to elevate that experience for our associates so that they can in turn elevate the results for the organization.
So do the executives actually leverage executives?
So say that one more time. I'm sorry. I think
so do executives leverage other executives in this process?
They should. Absolutely. Yes, they absolutely should, because the purpose intent of having those executive sponsors is so that they can tap into their networks to help drive positive change for those ERGs. Okay. So that's the effect of being able to say, okay, I'm going to touch you. Now you go touch 10 other people, and you go in. And once we get them on board, then they need to go and touch. It's about the action behind it.
The action.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Pamela, and sometimes that executive to executive might be dialing for dollars, right? Because that executive sponsor is key in helping us put on events and having the additional resources and support our team. So I think, when we think about the executive sponsor, not only is the organization helping us with funding, that executive sponsor is key. And I know for us this year, as we're thinking about heading back out and having real life events and like seeing people, right? Those cost more money than what we've got on a Zoom. And so I went to my executive sponsor and I was like, I'm going to need some extra money. And she was like, all right, send me over. Right. So I put a proposal together and she's like, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen for our field teams. But I think sometimes too, it's about, hey, what are we bringing? And April hit it spot on. It's the strategy. Like I know my business advisory team, they get requests all the time from marketing. Like, hey, how does this look? Is this good? It's were we working together? I think to make every dollar count. And that's what our executive sponsors do to us sometimes. And I know mine, I'll send her a note. And she sometimes like, is that really our bang for our buck? Is that what you want to spend the money on? Or she'll ask me questions and then I have to rethink about it, right? Like treat it like a business. And so I think for us as we head out and she's helped me form connections with other folks so that we can double down on the work that we're doing.
Okay. And so when I try to conceptualize this for some that may be on this, this call today who are not, let's say, a big corporation and they're a small business, okay, and they're thinking about how to leverage, it sounds basically almost the same where you are using your connection, I guess, to just drive whatever that platform is that you need, bring them to the table, and then you ask them to participate. And I assume that this could sort of be like a roundtable per se. Does your executive sponsor ever come to your meeting or meet with your groups or something like that to show their actual buy-in to what you're doing?
Yes. So we have planned sessions with the executive sponsors. And we show them, ROI. For example, even if you're a small business, right, and you have a network around you or potentials to expand your network, if you can show the tie-in between your ERG and how you can elevate and support them, to Terrence's point, we have a culture council for marketing that reaches out and says, hey, this is the content we're thinking about. What do you think? Like unfiltered, what do you think? Is it going to work? Is it going to land in the way that we want it to land? For PBNA, for example, they were thinking about a people of color scholarship, and women of color said, hey, let us think about a name and branding for that would actually hit in the way that we intended it to. And I mean, this $300,000 is what we were able to go and contribute to colleges and universities for people of color talent. And, we're by 2030, we're looking at millions of dollars of investment with this Ascend scholarship. And so again, there's the mutual benefit that's there. And we were able to hit our share targets, right? And so it's all about bringing out that mutual benefit. It's all about also humanizing experiences for people, because you can't lean so heavy on the business that we forget that we can't have a business without our people. And so we also need to, while we're doing right by the communities that we serve, we also have to do right by our associates.
Hey, and just on that point, I'm sorry, I'm jumping into your platform here. I'm Dana from Frito-Lay as well. I just want to mention that April and Taryn, the other thing that both of them do and all of our ERGs do, and this is with no money and no worry about funding events, they also bring issues to the table. So when you think about the recent Don't Say Gay bills that have been floating around, it was Taryn that told me about it, because she was getting all kinds of messages from her community within Equal, but also employees just reaching out because they don't know where to go. So they go to someone that will understand, and then she can filter that to me to say like, hey, this is bubbling up. So we are able to make recommendations to our executive teams to, how we communicate to our employees through the grassroots bubbling up from these employee resource groups. So to me, that's the most important piece. I mean, I love the cultural events we do, but to know what our employees are being impacted by and how we can support them, we usually get that information from these ladies and, others that are like them.
This is awesome. Okay, so I want to make sure that we have just a few minutes for those of you who have joined us today to ask your questions. So I'm only going to ask this. I'm going to ask a question, and I guess if one of you can give me a brief answer, but a powerful answer. How about that? How is your role as an ERG leader and your ERG members pivoted since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic? I know that was loaded. But is there just one thing that you can think of that you can share?
Go right ahead. No,
go ahead, April. I was just going to say that really has brought us together. Everyone was going through a challenging time, and going back to that sense of belonging and who we are as people. I feel that through, people have really trying to get innovative as to how we can connect in ways that it was not in the person to person. I think ERGs have been crucial for Toyota to ensure that we keep that momentum of that connectivity between all members, whether it's the business or whether it's an affinity group, but they have been crucial to keeping everything together for us, that glue.
Perfect. Okay. I think we could take another answer if you have one.
I think for me, it's just increased mindfulness, right? Like everybody, again, we're heads down, getting the work done, but there was social unrest, there was a pandemic, there was everything that did. And so just having increased mindfulness regarding what's going on in your surroundings, but in the lives of those that you touch across the organization as well, was really, really important. Like, Dana spoke about it, but for WOC, when Breonna Taylor happened, right, we literally just paused and immediately had a connect and was like, this is just a check-in. We just want to see how you're doing. And so it's being able to pivot on a dime, but also just having that emotional intelligence to look around you and just make sure people are okay.
You're exactly right. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so we do have a question. What are some events, activities, or programs that you found successful or well received within your organization? And again, we're on limited time, so something powerful, but to the point.
I think one thing that I know that we've been focused on for our LGBTQ plus members is a benefit. So like it's an event that we do over Zoom that we've been talking about. How do we make sure people understand the benefits that are available to them, their partners, or their family members? What does it actually get them, right? Like, I think all of us love coming to learning events, which is super important, but how do we make sure people understand what's available to them, right? In all of our different communities? How do they know the resources for our women of color? How do we make sure, that each of these different groups, our Pacific Asian network, right? Like, how do we make sure that they know what was available to them when things were going on? To April's point, like, there were resources and calls. April led so many amazing calls where people could be candid about their feelings. Like, people have to know, and those are what they are. It's not this, here's the hoopla of what we're doing today. It's here's the real life, to April's point, like you are people and here's what we're doing. And let me make sure that you understand that what we're doing as an organization, big or small, are doing for you and why it's important that you're here.
Awesome. Okay, we've got another question. Do you regularly include speakers outside of your organizations to deliver content to all of your member meetings? And then if so, do you see this practice increasing your networking and the strength of your ERGs?
I can take that one.
Okay.
So definitely for Toyota, we do. We like to look internally. I think that's important as well for our team members to be able to see themselves as like, oh, I can definitely relate to this leader. How can I, emulate or get, that's something that I aspire to be or who I aspire to be. But then also we've leveraged outside speakers to ensure that they help us through maybe something that we don't have representation for, or sensitive subjects like we did, for the past years or what have you. So speakers, I think, really draw in regards to, sometimes it's almost like a parent. You can tell the child the same thing and it's like it doesn't settle in, but when they hear from a different person, it just sets in. It's like, okay, they're really providing that unbiased feedback as to what we can do as an organization to improve, to bring us together. So I think the power of being able to bring speakers, whether it's internal or external, is huge to ensure that we continue. And it's that awareness, creating that awareness of how we can come together. Again, for Toyota, it's respect for people, but it's respect for all people. And how do we do that, right? And it sounds easy, but sometimes we all have those biases that we got to check ourselves in. So I think it's important to have that different perspective, that different view that maybe it doesn't come naturally to some of us.
Okay, thank you so much. And a real quick question to add on for that, because we do have another one, is there a budget for the programming if you do have outside folks?
We do. For Toyota, each of our ERGs is given a budget, but then from there as well, we have, for bigger symposiums and what have you, we have additional budget that's given to them. So for those type of events to be put together and for it to be as impactful as we want it to be, there's definitely has to be some money to support those events.
Awesome. Okay, I believe this is our last question from the audience. Given ERG activity is often voluntary, what are some of the ways you found to reward and incentivize your ERG leaders and members?
So at Toyota, I mean, we have a small and mighty team on the D&I team, and they come up with great innovative ideas to ensure that our team members feel respected and they feel valued. So we do have awards for each of the BPGs that a program that has been put together to highlight what are those great achievements that have been done. And then we also come together in regards to the sharing best practices amongst all the BPGs or ERGs to ensure that they're able to share. Taryn talked about the intersectionality, how we come together, right, as one Toyota, and how we can support each other and leverage that. But definitely making sure that our team members are valued, and we do have an award system that supports that as well.
Pamela, I think thank you is a huge one that we often forget. And we forget that in our day lives, right? Like I try, right? I'm trying to teach my kids this, but let's remember that's a big one, right? And I'll tell you, April is one bad mamma jamma. I was going to use a different word, but she does such a good job. And we have an internal platform to thank people for their work, right? And not only then does that get shared, but then their managers see it, right? And sometimes it's not yes. Would people love to get paid to do the extra volunteer work? Yes. But at the end of the day, it's about acknowledging that they did something and showing. And I know like April's team does it well. I know something that we did this year, super corny. It's like giving them a jacket. Like the jacket cost $30. It was not that much. We took it out of our budget, but it just showed that they're engaged and it let them walk around with a badge of honor. So I think those are things too. I know for myself, like thank you goes a long way to volunteers because oftentimes we think their passion is paying it for them, but we still got to go back and remind them that like we need them because if without them, it wouldn't be where we're at today. So I think those are good examples. And I know April probably has a zillion as well, but I think April does a great job.
You're exactly right.
As do you. One other thing I'll add is exposure to more industry level development opportunities. So being able to plug into different types of conferences and things like that are also additional perks, if you will, that help them develop and expand their network inside and outside of the org.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you to our panelists for joining us and leading this conversation this morning. We so appreciate your time and talent. This was absolutely amazing dialogue. I'd like to also say thank you to everyone in our virtual audience today. And again, to our Plano Culture and Inclusion Alliance annual sponsors, Toyota Motor North American, Frito-Lay, and Southern Methodist University. Thank you for each of you for participating today. Please be on the lookout for communication about our next event, and we hope that you have a fantastic day. We are adjourned. Thank you.